Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we take the Arturia Microfreak and we're gonna build from scratch some techno preset. So we also give you some tips along the way and how you can experiment and appropriate yourself the presets. If you like this type of video, I already made a couple of videos with the Arturia Microfreak. I will put it in the description. So yeah, let's have a listen what we're gonna do today. Alright, so we are with the init patch here. So one thing was noting, usually when I create preset, I always like to use a bit of effect on it. So that's why I'm gonna have saturator, reverb, and drum bass on it. It will appear just up there. That's our default sound. Maybe I'm gonna deactivate the saturator actually. One thing I usually do is I go to utility preset and then I go to preset volume and I put 12. Now for this preset we're gonna create a kind of acid sound, and for that we're gonna use the virtual analog oscillator. So here we are, and something classic. I'm gonna remove the detune and the first oscillator. I'm just gonna use this oscillator, which is like basically a sawtooth. And when you go around 55, yes, you got this like nice tone. All right, next thing to have acid sound, obviously we take the low pass filter. We're gonna bring down a little bit the frequency. This obviously you can play with later, but obviously the idea is to crank up the resonance, maybe until at least 90%. Let me bring up the filter. Alright, now I don't want something like the classic 303 sound. I want something with a softer attack. So you're gonna see here, I'm gonna modulate the filter with this envelope. So this is gonna be our amp envelope, but for our filter as well. So I'm gonna bring around 45-50 milliseconds, and then I'm gonna have the sustain around 50. We kind of want a little bit of a plucky effect, but we still want our sustain. And then the decay, yes, around 2 seconds as well. So now you haven't changed much, but if you use our filter amount, that's where it starts to be interesting, because now you have your filter modulation, which is creating this nice. And I was talking about the attack. If I bring back the attack at 0, you kind of have more your classic 303 sound, but with a bit of attack between 30-60 milliseconds, I would say, depend. You got something really nice. Now one thing is missing is a bit of glide between two notes, so glide will be this pitch modulation, and we're gonna use this. Here again, between 30-60 milliseconds, you can go until 90 milliseconds. This is really up what you like, but right, so now we can make things a bit more interesting. We're gonna use the key up to control the cutoff. Basically, the lower the note, the lower your cutoff is gonna be, and the higher the note, the higher your cutoff is gonna be. So this is really great, kind of making a bit more like natural. And we're gonna go up to 60%. So the filters go down. Other than here, the filter is pretty high. One thing for more expressivity, we can as well put the pressure on the filter. So depending on how much of your finger you put on the note, it will open more the filter, or close down, depending on how you modulate, obviously. But here we're gonna go for 30%. This usually you need to try a little bit to see, because it can be very expressive and then for too much expressive. Now we're gonna add some more effects. So I will use saturator in hard curve mode to add a bit of bite, mainly making things louder, a bit beefier. Then overdrive, it's gonna add this nice grit, like, which usually works super well with 303 sound, and a bit of delay obviously. And obviously you got a way much more beefier sound and nastier. So now with the effect, I'll add a bit of sidechain as well, and in the context of the track, you will obviously get something like that. Alright, so next one, we're gonna do a percussive kind of weird scent. So again, I will apply some saturation and reverb. You will have the effect chain up there, and I will obviously give it to you as well. And I've set back the init. So for this type of weird percussion, we're gonna use the modal oscillator, which is right here after the pitch. And I really love this one because it's really sound weird, which is perfect for techno. We're gonna start to play with the wave, with the enharmonic. Almost getting something like a bell. For this one, we're gonna stay around 30. And for the shape, which is the decay, something at the maximum 100. Okay, so we're gonna shape a little bit. So we don't want any sustain. We want the attack at 0. And then the decay around 2 seconds. Now the cool thing with the new V5 firmware update, you can go in utility, preset modulation, and you have envelope snap that you can turn on, which give you a slightly more aggressive, I don't know, a bit more sharp. The decay is like a bit more snappier. And then we're gonna modulate our filter with the filter amount. So we're gonna bring down the filter and modulate a little bit. Then you can play with the filter amount cutoff depending on what you like. Maybe crank up the resonance a little bit. Now to make the sound a little bit more aggressive, we can add transient to the sound. And one of the easiest way to do that is basically to modulate your pitch with a very sharp envelope. So here what we're gonna do, we're gonna use the cycling envelope, but we're gonna use it like a classic envelope this time. And we're gonna bring the rise, which is the attack at 0, no sustain, and with the fall, which is basically our decay, we want something really sharp, so maybe like 14 milliseconds. We make sure the amount is 100%. Now it doesn't do anything, but now we're gonna apply this cycling envelope to our pitch. We click here, and then we go 100%. Now you can change with fall, which is the decay, if you want this pitchy modulation at the beginning or no. See, if you put 3 milliseconds, you have the click, but you don't have the pitch millisecond. If you put a little bit more, you have this pitch modulation I don't personally like, but like around 4 me. You can adjust the amount obviously as well, like this. And one thing I like to do with the cycling envelope is usually to experiment and trying to modulate a little bit everything, because usually my amp envelope, I will use it to modulate the filter and shape my amplitude, and then I will use the cycling to try to get something interesting out of it and like modulate whatever I can. And so we're gonna use it to modulate the timbre right here, and then again you can experiment according to what you like. And then you can activate the paraphonic. So this I mean you can play multiple notes at the same time. So now we can add a bit of effect. So I add the vocoder, which is having this weird effect. Let me play actually my sequence. A bit of delay. I'm gonna add a bit of sidechain here again. And then in the context of a track. So you can create a nice weird percussive sequence just with this preset. Alright, next one is kind of a key preset, like a weird detune kind of sound. Again, we have our init patch. Again, you can see the effect right here. I just put a bit of saturator and the reverb and drum bass as usual. And then later on I will add some overdrive and delay. So here we're gonna use again the virtual analog because it just sounds so good. And we're gonna do exactly the same setting, bring down everything and just bring the shape at around 50. I just love how it sounds. And then here the trick is gonna be to use the unison mode. So we're gonna hold shift and press paraphonic, and you can see now it's blinking. And we got this kind of a super slow trancey sound. But the great things with this unison mode is if you keep hold Shift and paraphonic, you can see you have unison spread, and you can detune the way you want. So this obviously you will get different results according to the detuning. And here we're gonna detune 6 semitone, because usually 6 semitone is kind of getting this weird and sounds great in techno. Maybe a bit upper. Oh. Yeah, let's play a bit upper. And then again, we want something plucky, so sustain down, no attack, the decay 1.5. You can again go into the envelope snap and create on. And then again, we're gonna bring down the filter, bring down the resonance because we don't really need, and crank up the filter amount. So then adjust to your taste here again with the decay, the filter amount, and the cutoff. And yeah, that's pretty much it, honestly. I know it's pretty simple, but that's work. I could try to use the LFO to add some random modulation on the filter, maybe. That's something you can do just to kind of never having the cutoff at the same position. That can be something interesting. I'd already shown in the video, but you can use the random. We're gonna use a 16 sequence, so we can put on sync and the rate at 16. And now we just need to use our LFO to modulate our cutoff. And we don't want something too pronounced like this. This is gonna be too much. No, this is we don't like. We want something more subtle. Like you can barely notice it. And actually you can do that with the shape one maybe as well. So the shape one is basically on assign one, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, VCO parameter 3. And then yeah, you could use the cycling envelope to try to modulate something else. To be honest, I think I've tried and it didn't really work out. Sometimes it's great to just stop it and to don't want to overcomplicate. If things work like this, it works, even if it's a simple patch. Doesn't matter. So now we're gonna play the sequence. I will put it in Ableton. Again, I will give the MIDI as well with the effect chain with the preset for free. Link in the description. And it sounds like this. Okay. So now we can add our effects. So overdrive. Amp if you want something a bit more crunchy. Bit of sidechain. And now let's see in the context of a track. Alright, back to the init patch. So now we're gonna use one of the new oscillator available in the V5 of the Microfreak. You have this kind of granular scent where you can load your sample and create some nice sound. And we're gonna use basically the scan grain, which is right here. So then it's always depend which sample you load. If you can load your own sample, or I'm gonna use the default one, so like this everyone can have it. So you hold Shift and go through with the type button all you sample. You have a lot of choice. I'm gonna use the piano lo-fi because we're gonna do a dub techno chord and it's gonna be perfect for that. First we're gonna play a chord, so we're gonna activate paraphonic play and we're gonna go an octave down and we're gonna play F minor. So I'm gonna play it on the push because it's easier than this small keyboard. Already you got something pretty good. We're gonna make sure the scan is in ×1 and then here I think because it's a sharp sound, it doesn't affect that much, but it's okay because we're gonna modulate later and it's gonna add a bit of variation. And here again, we're gonna shape the amp. So no sustain. Oh, actually you can put the sustain at 50%. And no attack. And the decay around 2 seconds. And again with the snap on. This is very nice if you like sharp percussive sound. And again, low pass filter, and we're gonna bring it down maybe around 250. Bit of resonance, this we're gonna see, and then we're gonna modulate our filter with the filter amount. So then again, it depends how much you want the modulation. You can play with the sustain and the decay if you want something sharper. Now I'm gonna do what I've told you on the previous patch, where I'm gonna use the cycling envelope to kind of modulate things. Here I'm gonna use it to slowly modulate parameters, so like all of these parameters of your oscillator. So I'm gonna have the cycling envelope in loop, and it's gonna be something with a very long attack and a very long decay, almost like a triangle LFO basically, but very slow. But we're also gonna add 2 seconds of sustain, so that's what we're gonna do. So you can, this is really, I'm gonna put 6-7 seconds. The fall we can put like 10 seconds, and the whole sustain maybe 2 seconds, and make sure the amount is as 100. And then we're gonna use this to modulate wave, timbre, cutoff, and the shape, which is on assign 1. So let's go. Here we're gonna go 68 point something for this one that I cannot pronounce. We're gonna go around 43. So this is very like subtle modulation. It's not something that's gonna completely change, but you know, it's like kind of the little modulation which make you sound a little bit less boring. Cut off not too much because we don't want too much, just 7. And then the assign 1, it's more like 50. And then finally we can use the LFO with a square. So I like to use square LFO because it's basically kind of switching between 2 stages, obviously, because you have used the bottom and the top one straight away. So it's always great to kind of add some variation, and obviously you can play with the rate to kind of create with variation. So here we can modulate the LFO with the pitch. So we're gonna do 12% with, I think it's like the 5th, or I don't know. Okay, now it's weird, but let me play the sequence because it will be better than me playing. So this depends obviously of your pattern, but you can the kind of your LFO basically create pitch variation inside your own pattern. Now I'm gonna bring it back to 1/4, and then obviously we're gonna add some effects. I like this one because it's a bit and let's put that in the context of a track with some sidechain. But yeah, that's it for our dub chord. Now I want to create a kind of a weird pad or weird sound that you can add to add a bit of weirdness to your track. So we're gonna use one of the new oscillator, which is the cloud grain this time. And we're gonna change the sample. This time we're gonna go to something which is called Old FX, I think. Yeah, so number 38. And again, 64 here. And then density is 50. And the shape 47 maybe. I think these are the type of oscillator mode to play as a sustain. Already like how it weird it sound. Here again we're gonna use the unison mode, so shift paraphonic. I love it even more now. And again you can change the shift. Maybe around adding a bit of excitement. Somewhere there. It's almost a shame I cannot play a chord with this sound because it sounds great. Maybe you could resample it and import the sample to play it with this one again and play with the paraphonic and not the unison. That could be interesting. So here we're gonna reduce a little bit of sustain. Here again we're gonna have sustain sound, so maybe a bit of attack to don't have something too percussive. like around 60 milliseconds. Decay, maybe around 3 seconds. This is working. And then with the filter, we're gonna bring the resonance at 0. And then we're gonna modulate the filter. So this kind of sound used a bit more, could use a bit more effects with that we're gonna add later, but sound already pretty weird and strange to me. Here again, to be honest, I'm pretty happy with the patch, but we're gonna use the cycling envelope to see if we can modulate things a bit in the weird way. Maybe we're gonna put it in the loop, or we're gonna put like something a bit different than we've done before, maybe 100 millisecond attack, 230 or 250 the fall, the sustain, a bit more sustain, 400. And then we can try to, okay, maybe the amount 100%, but this obviously we can always shape later on. It's just to have something to start with, and then we can start to try to modulate some parameter with the matrix. So let's start with the pitch, why not? Might gonna be sound weird. What we can do is maybe with the amount adjusting the, so we have a variation, but it's not too much. All right, let's try, why not with the wave. Not a big difference, but I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna go with the weird one, with the samba. Doesn't do much, but I can still feel the modulation. I don't know if it's because of the pitch or if it's also this one. Maybe the filter. But filter, I just want a little bit. I don't want too much. And then we're gonna go to the assign one, which is basically the shape. So it's everything having this kind of weird movement a little bit. Now, I think it's great. Is I didn't use the LFO, and I can use the LFO to modulate maybe the same parameter. So this way, when you use the LFO and the cycling envelope, you're kind of creating a complex waveform modulation. To be honest, 99% of the time this doesn't really work for me, but listen, we can having a try. So LFO to the wave, and maybe wait, we need to set our LFO. Let's set a triangle, something else. Okay, it add a bit of discontinuity. Let's try with. Oh. Yeah, I think I prefer with the. So now with the dub techno con, it kind of make it a little bit unstable, which you can remove if you don't like. I will leave it for now, and I'm gonna add a bit more effects, so delay, and I think the reverb I'm gonna add a bit more as well. So either you can play it as one shot, Or you can try to play as sustain, more like ambience in the background. Alright, now let's see in the context of a track, I'll add a bit of sidechain. I'm gonna go to utility and as well preset volume at 12, just to make it louder. And we're gonna see if it's working as an ambience, obviously. I could use the pressure to the cutoff basically as well. Okay, not bad as well. Pretty nice ambience. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today, guys. Hope you like it. As usual, the presets are available for free. The link in the description. You can go grab them. I will put the Ableton effect chain as well. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and see you soon. Bye bye.